You set those expectations. They may not remember everything, but they've just got this level of comfort with you now. You spent 5 extra minutes with them, extra intentional about making sure that they knew with as much detail as possible how the rest of this entire process was going to go. All right, welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Just Real Quick. I got my boy Jared in the studio today, and we got Obediah, Andres, and McKay spread out throughout the state of Utah here to contribute as well. Let's get started. Jared, what do you got for us today?
All right, guys. So today we are going to be covering what we consider our level 2 director training. So it's just a little bit more detailed oriented in terms of getting in a home, building rapport, and some of the things that our top level guys do that really kind of set them apart, because we have guys that we train and we train them really well and they come out and they have success out the gate. However, we have these directors here on this phone call, and these guys are killers. They break records regularly. They have super high closing ratio. They generate tons of revenue, and there's just some next level things that these guys are doing. And we're going to get some of that information from them today.
And you know what's interesting is not very long ago, none of these gentlemen had ever done sales. Right, McKay? I mean, before you came here, had you ever done sales?
One miserable summer of pest control and swore I'd never.
Okay, pest control over a summer. Just a young kid, got recruited by one of his friends. Andres was in construction. Obediah was in construction. I was in construction before I started doing Windows.
Mix.
And he had a little bit of sales background.
A little bit, but mostly construction, and they mesh very well for this job.
But the cool thing is there is some very simple principles and some things that we're going to be learning today that no matter what your background is, no matter how early you are in the process or how late, you can take some of these things and apply them to what you're doing right now to close at a higher rate, to build rapport better, to have better communication skills, to relate better to people. And we're going to learn from the best in JKR Windows how to do that.
Let's do it. So let's start out, guys. One of the first things that we do when we get into the home is we start to build a little bit of rapport. So I want to pick your guys' brains and get some feedback from you on how you guys approach that. Let's start with Mr. Obediah.
I think we've talked about it before. As soon as I'm walking in, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the front yard. I'm looking at every decoration they have, the family, how many kids do they have? Do they have kids? Do they have dogs? What do they have that I can relate to? Building rapport is always about being relatable, right? Being able to come up with something. I always introduce myself. Like you talk about, ask when you take my shoes off. All of this stuff creates yes, sir, yes, ma'am kind of thing. Just creates a way of them understanding that I'm a respectful person. I'm kind. I'm considerate. And then I sit down and I just kind of start shooting the shit with them. Like, hey, how's it going? How's your day been? If it's a weekend, how's your weekend coming along? Thanks for meeting me at this time. And that's usually the basis of what I'm start with. You know what I mean? Just asking questions and doing your normal hello stuff.
Some normal pleasantries.
Yeah. Salutations.
It reminds me of Charlotte's Web. Okay, thank you, Obi. Let's get some feedback from Andres there.
I mean, pretty much the same thing. The biggest difference I do is I always find it for common ground. Right? Being relatable, it can be the kids, it can be the job, it can be the cars, whatever it is. I find something we have in common. And then people love talking about themselves. So if you find that thing that you guys have in common, you start talking about it and you get talking. But, 10 minutes in, you're the best friend already. And they're going to have a lot more trust on you because then, you're relatable. One thing that I found that actually works for me great is that background in construction. Because a lot of people work construction, or they have before, right? And then once I do a lot of fact finding, I find out what they do. Then we talk a lot about that pretty much the whole appointment as we're doing everything else.
McKay, do you have any other different spins on building rapport when you first get there?
Being polite, being presentable, introducing yourself, strong handshake, making eye contact. But one thing I ask my guys to do when they're setting appointments, because there are a lot of opportunities to get little pieces of rapport building and a little fact finding during the setting of the appointment. So that's one of the things I ask for in the notes, whether it's in Trello or Google Calendar, is what are those little things that they talked about, that they mentioned, maybe they saw their super cute dog, happened to catch the dog's name, or any little possible rapport builders that can give me a little background information going into it. And then like Obi said, once you step into that house, it's looking around, listening. If you hear a dog barking somewhere, if you smell something delicious cooking on the stove, like any little thing that you can use to break that ice and not come in hot and heavy, jumping right into business and right into sales, but start some of that personal rapport building beforehand is real important. And most important thing, wear fun socks. I got some Swedish fish socks on today. So then when you take your shoes off, keep the carpet clean, you got some sweet socks to show off.
I'm glad you highlighted that as the most important thing, because absolutely
The most important.
But that is a really important thing because it's an icebreaker. It disarms them, and something as simple as just wearing some funny socks. I love that idea. And so, 2 questions I always ask when I get in. One, how long have you guys been in the home, and are you guys from the area? It's amazing how much information I can get just off those 2 things, and starting to find some commonality, stuff like that. And then also, I think that we didn't cover it, but we're still there to be professionals. We're still there to be respectful over their time. So we're not going to sit there and shoot the shit for an hour. We build just enough rapport to get them comfortable, get them disarmed, and then, we'll get into business. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I always tell him, he's like, yeah, I don't want to waste your guys' time. I'll talk a lot. I blame it on myself. I'm a talker. That's why I do this. So let me get into it. We'll get down to business. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks.
Sweet. And I'm glad you put it that way, Obi, because one of the things that's on here, so it's called sales modeling. So there's just some aspects that we're going to cover through this process. But one of the things that is on here to highlight is transition. So that's exactly what that is. It's like you just transition from building rapport, all the pleasantries, all of that, the salutations, and then you just transitioned into, okay, let's get to business. So I love that. That's something that's really important that maybe some people have a hard time with, is like that cue. When is it time to transition? So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, in terms of, say, when we're doing the whole window, or excuse me, the intro, and then we get to the point of transitioning from the intro into, say, the slideshow, how do you guys kind of set that up for that transition from one section to the next?
So it's different for me from different section to different section, but like I think we've talked about it, I always lay out what I'm going to do for them at the beginning of the appointment. Hey, look, this is what I want to do. I want to make sure we understand the program. I want to make sure you feel comfortable with the company, and then I'll point to my iPad. That's what I got this for. I want to share a lot of information with you today, and I want to make sure you understand our process and how we operate and how our windows work from a visual standpoint right here, and then I'll get into the windows. So once I get, done with the introduction, I'm always asking questions like, are you comfortable with using the home as an advertising home? Which most of the time, every time they are, right? But it just gives me that ability to start transitioning right there. And they'll be like, great, so perfect. We got this done. We're going to check out these 3 boxes, and then I'll go into it. So this is the information side of it, guys. Let me show you what I can do now. If you have any questions, please interrupt me. I tell them, I do this from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night. I can get into a role, just interrupt me. And it kind of gives them a laugh. And like, all right, well, let's see what you got. And then I'll break into the information. That's what I do.
All right, Andres, you got a spin on that?
It's pretty similar. Like I said, at first, just to let it out, this is what we're doing, right? And I usually, most of the time I say, let's get started. That's usually when I start, right? Go over the intro, what I'm going to do, and then now we can get started, go over the slideshow, and just keep it pretty basic. And just like Obi said, like, if there's any questions along the way, let me know, because I can go pretty quick, right? And after that, I'll show you guys the window and we can get down to business.
Yeah, very similar for me. The one thing that I add in, that's the exact spot in my presentation where I am laying out a very reasonable and respectful, clear commitment from them that they are going to be making a decision at the end of things when they have all the information. So in that intro, I'm re-explaining the advertising home program. I'm re-explaining and basically giving reason why I'm there from the marketing team instead of one of our retail directors. And then after I explain how we're finding these advertising homes with the 4 or 5 appointments to set up 1 or 2, that's right when, at the end of that introduction, I'm saying, and look, my job is not to convince anybody they need windows, because, when Tate stopped by, he was telling me, I already asking you if you're looking for windows or at least thinking about it. My job is not to pressure somebody into something that, just doesn't make sense for them right now. I'm here to present this opportunity for you to be one of our advertising homes. At the end, after I've got my measurements, I'll be able to get you an exact number, what we can do you for as one of our advertising homes with those discounts. And all I need to know from you is whether we'll be working with you as one of our advertising homes, and I'm going to be able to reserve those discounts for you, or if I'll be offering those to somebody else I'm meeting with here in the neighborhood. So I'm going to need a yes or no from you guys about being one of my advertising homes. Does that sound reasonable? Is that fair to you guys? And then I'm getting direct eye contact and a nod and a confirmation, verbal yes from both decision makers, both spouses. That's reasonable. Once we have the info, we'll let you know one way or the other. And that's how I frame getting into the slides is, hey, I've got a lot of good information here. I just want to make sure you have everything you need to make a good decision here today. Stop me if you have any questions that I don't cover, but let's get into this.
I think that's
Beautiful.
perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that too, because that's pretty much how I like to do it as well.
Yeah.
This I take on that, just a different side for them to see a different side of it is I like to tell them like the 3 things that I'll be doing. I want to make sure they feel comfortable with the company, make sure they like the window, tell them that's why I bring it, make sure I'm going to go over all the information so they can understand it. And then I tell them like, I want to check off those boxes. And if I can check off those boxes, the reason, because I've already done my fact finding, to figure out why I'm there. Yeah, you need windows. We've already accomplished that. But like I tell them, if I can check off these 3 boxes, there's no reason why we wouldn't move forward. That's fair to say, right? And they'll be like, yeah, of course, perfect. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here. So I just want to make sure. Yeah. All right, and this is what we're getting into.
That's great. Those little trial closes. And this is still like very early in the process when you're doing these little trial closes. And that part right there, when I first started, I ran 27 appointments before I ever got a close. And that right there was the biggest reason why, is because I didn't have that part down with conviction and confidence in the way that I was saying it, because it is different the way that we do it. Like, we've all heard about the statistics and, that 98% of people don't buy on the first touch. It's just the statistics across the board in sales. With us, it's a little bit different because of our approach, because of this opportunity, because of the urgency, because of the scarcity in this neighborhood. We're only doing 2 homes. Somebody's going to take advantage of it. Could be you. But if it's not, that's okay. There's no pressure. And it's such a disarming thing for customers if you present it right, that it takes away the pressure now. Like, you just brought down all their walls. And they're like, you know what? I like this guy. He's going to give us a bunch of information. He's going to educate us about Windows. He's going to teach us a bunch of things that we may not even know yet. But at the end, he said we can just say yes or no. Not a big deal. That's what separates us. The other salespeople that are just so stressed out because they got this 98% that they're thinking about that aren't going to make a decision. They got to think about all the different strategies of how they're going to make another 5 to 12 contacts to make sure that they can take advantage of the rest of those people. We don't have to worry about that all that much. So it's pretty interesting. And each one of you guys close at least at a 50% close ratio month over month, but sometimes it's as high as 60 to 70% on the very first time we've ever met that person. Isn't that interesting?
Amazing what we do. It's a testament to our guys and what we offer. It's huge.
And our process.
Yeah.
And our process as well.
Well, I think
So,
just being able to say no. Like, we're not pushing people or pressuring them to say yes. All we're asking is for a decision. And I don't know a lot of companies that do that same thing, because I think that's the most common thing. Like, I don't care if you guys say no, guys. You guys can say no. Like, this is not a high pressure process. I will need a decision because at the end of the day, it's an opportunity for you guys to be one of our adults. And that's all it is, right? Like, we're not pressuring you to anything. And then just keep your word. I actually got this from McKay. It's like, if I'm doing this trial close at the start and let you know I'm going to need a decision, at the end, I got to keep my word. Because we're not going to get started, where I said something and I didn't keep my word. So at the end, I already told you, right? If it makes sense also, but not a big deal, I just can't get them in. Usually people take it pretty well.
yeah, it's amazing how, and it's got to be delivered the right way, right? We got to do it with clear confidence and conviction. We're looking them in their eye when we're saying it. We're speaking very clearly, and it's an agreement. And the whole intro, essentially, we're setting expectations and we're getting agreements. And that is probably the most important expectation. The most important agreement is when we dial down that urgency. But the way that we do it, so disarming, because we're not trying to pressure them. It's just logical, purely logical. We're going to lay it out, give you all the information you need to make the correct decision. End of the day, we'd love to use you, but if it's not making sense, not a big deal. We'll just give the opportunity to your neighbor instead. And I really like how Obi utilizes the three things. The way I like to utilize it is, we're going to solve a problem for you. You're going to love our product and service, but most importantly, if it fits into your budget, we can check all those boxes. We're going to ask you to move forward, be an advertising home for us. So, and what I like about that is that it sets the expectation for them, but also you go back to it. If they're trying to give you a little bit of guff about closing, you just go back to it. Well, look, guys, you know that we're solving a problem for you. You know that you love the product and service, and you bring up the reasons. Don't just say those. Like, bring up the problems that we will solve. Bring up the product and the aspects of our product and service that they love, and then get right into how it makes sense for them to pay for it. And you can utilize that to always kind of, like I said, if they try to wiggle out of it, then you just rehash all that and get them to agree to it. And at the end of the day, it either makes sense or it doesn't. Either way, we're not desperate. We're rather neutral with the whole thing because we're so good. We know that we're going to get our sales regardless.
Yep. And we handle it as professionally as possible. We've all heard the stories. I know you guys have too, that, the reason why they went with us is because it was just such a good experience. Like, we just felt like we could trust you guys. It was such a good experience. And the last window guy that we had here, he sat here for 3 hours and he would not leave. And he just kept coming down on his price, and he was just doing everything that he could to get the sale. And it was such a turnoff to us that we did everything we could to get him out of our house. It was such an opposite experience with JKR Windows. What were we going to say, Obi?
I was just going to say, and it was kind of on the concept of what you're talking about, Jeff. A lot of companies seem to they're like an inverted pyramid. Instead of building it up to a point, you know what I mean? It kind of starts at a point and they build to all this pressure at the end, which collapses on itself. Like, when we do our process, all these killers on here, we're building so much urgency and so much value in what we're doing as we continue. And I'm sure every one of these guys can attest to the fact that whatever I say in the beginning will be brought back up towards the middle and again at the end. So it just coherence all the way through it. And it works the whole time. So that when you get to the end, like, literally, it's not a pressure sale. They understand that it makes sense to them. They understand that our window and our service is better. And if you start getting, because as we're going through it, like, if they start having any kind of inclination that another company came in and they did this and it was too much money, I'm not going to do that. There's no other person I can call, and just for these new directors coming in, being able to understand the conception behind this, the concept behind what these processes and these steps are, then you can kind of start making your own way of doing it, right? To where you can always bring it towards the end. So that way there is no pressure at the end. I always tell everybody, if I get to the table and I'm having to negotiate at the table, I fucked up the presentation somewhere, right?
Yep.
It's because it makes sense or because you have no money and we can't find it. I can't get you approved or whatever that is. That's the only reason that's acceptable for you to not do this offer.
Yeah. Otherwise, why the heck were we even there? Like, they let us in their house. They're the ones that set the appointment. Like, that's the mindset that we need to help everybody with. And we've had guys come and go that just could never get there. But if you can grasp that, like, they asked us to be there. There's an obvious need at every single kitchen table that we're sitting at for this to become a reality for them. And it's our job to be able to present it in a way and build enough value that they're going to separate with that money, because it's worth less than all this value that we just built to fix the problem that they know that they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. And to touch on Obi's point, the way I set up all my appointments, for most of the time you're selling, but after you're done and you have that price and you're showing them, you're done. So you're closing. There shouldn't be any reason, right, why you're not closing them. You're not talking about the value. You're not talking about the install anymore. You're just getting them set up. You know what, this is a good fit for them. After you close them, then you negotiate. Are you guys going to do this cash? Are you guys going to do this finance? And I think if you guys keep that 3-step process, it's going to be a lot more success. I've seen new salespeople where they go back to selling when they're trying to close. And that's not going to help anybody. Like, you're done. Like, you already did your selling. Like, you're done. You're showing price. Now you got to make sure you close them. After that, you negotiate.
100%.
What would you, just to help these guys out, Andres, what would you classify as, like, what would be the differentiation for you between closing and selling? Like when you say that, some of these guys won't understand. What do you mean closing versus selling?
Like I am selling the company, I am selling the warranty, I am selling the window, right? So if you get to the end and you're trying to close them, they start saying, well, I don't know about this. Oh yeah, but you do have a lifetime warranty, you do have this, you're still selling the product. What I mean about that is now you're just making it make sense for them. Well, like we did say, you guys do have an issue, right? You guys did like the product. Is this affordable? Oh, well, I don't know. Okay, well, it's not affordable. Okay. Or I don't know, I got to think about it. Well, what's stopping you from moving forward today? That's the difference. It's being a lot more blunt, asking for that sale. That's closing instead of you trying to sell the window again to get that close. I think if people start separating that, they're going to do a lot better in their sales.
Yeah, it's more of like you're not negotiating at that point, as what I understand.
Yeah.
That's what, I just want to make sure we're on the same clarification for that, and they understood it, because I don't think they would. They're like, what the hell is he talking about?
I got you.
Awesome. What you got for us?
All right, guys, let's do another one here. So while we're kind of going through this process, and I know we kind of might have our own little things that we do specific to us, but we all have a way, and it's built into the script and the slideshows, of positioning JKR Windows. So how do we position ourselves as compared to our competitors, whether it be a quality window company or it be, say, a builder grade window? What are some of the tactics you guys to position JKR Windows? Because what's interesting, and I heard Kane speak about this, it's like JKR Windows, they really sit in this interesting pocket of quality and service and price point, to where it's really, we're one of a kind for what we offer. There's nobody out there doing it like we do it. So how do you guys kind of express that and paint the picture in positioning JKR Windows?
I always like to use what's it called, anecdotes, right, from other homeowners, people that I've dealt with, and drop them in there. There are other people, and I tell people, like, one of the phrases I like to use is like, and I tell them, McKay does the same thing. Like, we are not the cheapest window, right? I will not be the cheapest price you will find, but I'm also not the cheapest window. You know what I mean? And I tell them that, and I tell them our service is something you won't find with anybody else. Google anybody else and see their window replacement company and see what their reviews say about them. I said, if you get on ours, start with the worst and then work your way up, because you'll see most of those bad ones are just because we knocked on their door. Like, that's what they're upset about, not about the actual service. And I was like, and I'll tell them, like, you'll never see me in those reviews. I don't know why, because I gave them the deal. Makes them laugh. I'll be like, but it's always our service guys. Those are the ones that get all the reviews. And then, if I'm walking around, I'm pointing out pain points about builder grade windows like this. So I'm like, I'm a window guy. This is what I do. So I'm going to show you this, and this, whether it's the fact that they're not molded together, or whether the springs are broken, or the glass is failing, or it's pulling away from the house, or whatever pain points I can have. This is the stuff that you're not going to come in contact with me, or with the pain points that they started out at the beginning. I'm like, that's one thing you don't have to worry about with us. You got a broken window, call me. I'll come out and fix it for you free of charge. Well, not me, but my service guys, and just to get into that. So at every point, I'm trying to break down every other way that everybody fucks up and how we take care of it. And if I'm in an area like where Jones Paint and Glass is, anecdote. Yeah, I warehouse manager for Jones Paint and Glass bought our windows as an advertisement home, and agreed to put a sign up because he knows how bad his windows are. I've talked to their quality control specialist, the guy in charge of them. Terrible windows, terrible service. They grew too fast. And I even put it in our slideshow when I start talking about JKR Windows installation. I tell them about how we're growing fast, but not too fast, because we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're able to do our own installations, because if we don't, then you get caught between who's going to pay for it. I call it the love triangle for them. We sold it to them, they bought it, these guys installed it, and we're all fighting over who's going to pay for the fixing. I was like, you don't ever deal with that stuff when you're dealing with us, because we take care of it. And I'll tell them, as I go through the slideshows, we'll get in the slides and I'll show you how that makes sense. And, once we get to the installation guarantee, that kind of takes care of the rest of it. But I mean, it's really hard to pin it down, Jay. You kind of have to constantly, it's one of those things we do it now, we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do it again at the end. And then if you have any questions after that, I'll do it again, and I always have the website pulled up, and I always have our Google reviews pulled up. So if they haven't looked at it, because I always ask them, like, have you checked out our website, any of the reviews? Did they send you the links? Oh, no, we didn't check them. That's all right. Nobody does. I got them anyways. Let me show you. And then I'll show them the reviews. I'm like, guys, look, 4.8 stars as a window replacement company. You don't find them. I'm like, your good ones are at 4.5 stars. And so that's like physical proof for them. And I'll refresh that right in front of their faces and then go through the pictures and stuff like that. So that's how I do it.
And what I like about the positioning and proper positioning of everything, it also lets them know that you're like a specialist, like you're the product knowledge specialist. You know what's going on, and they can trust in your opinion. So, McKay, let's see what you got to say on that.
Yeah, a lot of great points there from Obi. One thing I always do is I'm never coming in negatively and attacking the other companies, whether they're lower quality than us or comparable quality, higher price. And I start price conditioning when I'm going through the slides. And when I'm talking about a builder grade window, that double pane standard low E, I'm letting them know, hey, that's what you're going to get if you're looking at some, low tier, mid tier windows at like Lowe's or Home Depot, or you're going through Jones Paint and Glass. It's a fine product. Jones Paint and Glass, they're a good company. They just target a completely different subset of the market than us. They're focused on those low end, bottom dollar type windows. And we take an opposite approach. We specifically do high end, high efficient replacement windows day in and day out. But what I'm able to do for you as one of my advertising homes is I'm getting you a top tier window with the efficiency, the comfort, the features, and the 45-year warranty for the same or sometimes even less than you're getting it through Lowe's or Home Depot or Jones for something of much lower quality. And going back to those anecdotes and third-party stories, out in Vernal, one of my sales out there, they had gotten a bid from Jones Paint and Glass a month prior, and Jones Paint and Glass was $1,400 a window. There are no cheap windows out there anymore. Even the cheap stuff is $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 plus a window, and we're able to get down into that exact same ballpark for them. And on the flip side, when I'm looking at those bids from Anderson and price conditioning on the high end with the retail pricing for Anderson and Pella and our general retail pricing, exact same thing. They're great companies. They make great windows. Actually, the reason our owner chose to work with Associated Materials rather than distribute for some of these other companies is we get better pricing going straight to the manufacturer. We're able to cut out a lot of costs by advertising this way that we do. And Anderson and Pella, they don't even have as good of a warranty as Associated Materials. You're going to be able to get a great window with them. But with us, we're able to, as an advertising home, get you such a massive discount off of it. So either side of the spectrum, it's never coming down negatively and talking bad on these other companies in order to try and build ourselves up. It's building them up and then showing how we stand out even head and shoulders above them, even though they are still good companies.
I love that. Because you know what? I think we've all gotten deals from other salespeople from other companies that they couldn't help themselves but talk bad about us. Mm-hmm. And that just rubs people the wrong way. It doesn't matter what their price ends up being or how good they felt about it. As soon as that starts coming out of your mouth and you're going to a negative place for no reason, really, it's not serving you, whether you realize it or not. That's something that we pride ourselves in is, we don't ever teach anybody to talk about another company. We're just going to point out the facts, and we're confident because the way that we've built our structure of this company, that we're going to bring more value, better service after the sale, as good a warranty as in the entire window industry. Without question, we're doing things that other companies just aren't willing to do. And it costs us more. We have to, bring more resources to the table to be able to have that kind of commitment. But it's easy thing to separate us from everybody else out there. And it's an easy thing to teach our salespeople to talk about. So you got extra confidence in there. Everybody in the whole company knows that they can have confidence and conviction in what they're offering to the customers. And it comes out in the way that you talk. In those other companies, they may not have that. So they have to resort to these other things that they think are going to help them. But what they don't realize is that we go in there after them and take a different approach and sweep up a lot of that business.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a big point. That's a big turnoff. We talk about other companies. Most people are not going to take it that well. So what I've done for JKR, I always sell it as a very high-end product. Like at the end, when I'm showing them the retail price, they shouldn't be surprised that that's the retail price. Like that's what they go for, regular retail price. When I'm giving you this discount, it's a hell of a deal because you guys are saving thousands of dollars by getting this done. And then as good as the window is, that install, it's a very high-end install. Because it doesn't matter how nice that window is, if you have a bad install job, you're going to have issues, right? All our contractors work directly for us, let each with the quality control, didn't have to worry about communication and whatnot. And I always say something with a lot of people, I'm like, it's not a replacement window. This is going to be an upgrade to what you currently have. Or even if sometimes people have replaced with cheap windows already, that are, like McKay said, they're not that cheap, that is just a replacement window. There's going to be an upgrade. This is what we're doing. And the main thing about all this is how you say it. If you're just reading a script and you don't have any belief in the company, in the install, in the product, people are going to see right through it. But if you sold a whole bunch of deals and you believe in the company and what they do and the actual change that homeowner is going to have, I can sell a lot easier that way because people can sense that conviction in my voice. When I'm looking at them and I'm telling them this is a hell of a deal and they're getting 2 windows for $9,000, I know that's a hell of a deal because I already had another bid that they bid them fucking 2 windows for $13,000. It's that professional arrogance that you're talking, people are listening to, like, I've already went through this 10 times before you guys. I can guarantee you that's a great deal, and that's a very high-end window. You don't want the cheapest window out there, right? Because it's going to be worse than a replacement. You already have, why would you want to buy a new window if you're going to have the same issues again? There's going to be a nice upgrade for the home. This is what you guys need, and this is going to be the best price you're going to get for.
That sure does come out a lot different when you got that much confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Confidence, conviction. Sorry, McKay, but confidence, conviction, and intention. It's amazing how successful people can be with confidence, conviction, and intention. And what's really important as well is part of running a successful appointment is the flow of managing the flow of energy. And you can feel it. You know, there's certain words that we use, certain words we don't use. And it's the same thing. I like how McKay was explaining how he refers to other companies. I do the same thing because I found myself in my early days kind of discrediting someone in a certain way that was negative, and you could feel the energy levels go from up here, instantly they drop down. And then I had to start kind of like build back up the energy and the momentum of everything. So extremely important, the words we use, like, you know, I don't say contract, I say agreement. I don't say the word cancel. There's just certain no words that I don't say. But also, it's the same concept when dealing with, other our competitors. I've cross-sold before, or they've signed up with a competitive company that has the same exact business model that we do. Within a couple of days, they had signed the contract. Next thing you know, I'm in there and I'm getting them to cancel their contract and go with me for the same price. But I'm coming in with the belief, the conviction, the confidence, the intention, and also the way that I talked about that other company. I did not discredit. I did not say one bad thing. It was just like McKay said, I built them up, but I was always head and shoulders above them.
Love those kind of success stories.
Yeah. And both Andres and Jared there touching on the importance and the power of that confidence and conviction. And that's something that will come naturally the longer you are with this company and you're able to have those first person stories. I've been selling for JKR over 2 years total. And I have never had to send our installers back to any of my jobs to fix something they did wrong. We truly have the best installers who are going to get it done right the first time. And you're going to be covered with that 45-year warranty. And as we're, talking with new directors and trying to level up the new closers and new salespeople, one of the easiest and most important things is learning how to take those third-party stories from the other directors, from the other closers in the company, and kind of live off a little of that borrowed light, if you will, from those of us who have been here as long as we have, who have that confidence and conviction. You don't need to be here 2 years to know that this is going to be done with the best windows and the best installers and the best warranty, with bar none customer service for the long term, because the customers we have, the reviews that we have, and the experience of the closers and directors around you. You don't have to. I waited to get that confidence myself and spent over a year, in mediocrity, if you will. But you can pick that up from those around you a lot faster than just grinding through it yourself and putting in that time to get that confidence.
Yeah, that's why we put this stuff together. is, we didn't have these kind of resources when McKay was early on, and I do my best, and all the leaders in this company do our best to convey that message and to build belief as much as we can. And our actions speak louder than our words, which is the most important things. But sometimes you got to learn it the hard way. McKay had to learn it the hard way.
And the hard way was still pretty great. I made over $100,000 my first full year with the company, but that's nothing compared to where I'm at now and the amount of opportunity that's here. But that confidence is absolutely key.
All right, guys, let's talk. There's another thing I wanted to mention in here that stuck out to me. It was something I spoke with Obi about earlier, and it's really about kind of a good cop, bad cop. So it's like, hey guys, we got this opportunity. I would love for you guys to be the ones, and I'm going to fight for you, but the discount is the discount. The promotion is the promotion, and I have no control over that. Once we hit our 2 homes, we are out of here. So can you guys kind of unpack that a little bit? We'll start with Obi on kind of how you position that you're on their side, but you have like as the good cop, but you have to listen to the bad cop because he's kind of the one that's in charge. Like how do you kind of go about positioning all that?
Wait a second. Who's the bad cop?
The bad cop is the urgency.
I thought you were pointing at me as a bad cop.
No.
Because it is kind of like the company, right? You're using the company and you're like, listen, I can't control what the company does. Exactly. My boss, he sets all the parameters. I just have to follow them. But I've heard you say this on some of your recordings, and I love the approach and how well it's received. So let's hear it from your perspective, Obi.
I always just tell them, like, it kind of depends on where I say it. Sometimes I'll say it at the beginning when I'm setting the expectations, they'll have to make a decision. And I was telling them, like, look, guys, the most uncomfortable part about this whole appointment right here is that I will need a decision at the end of this appointment. And it's not to try to pressure you guys into this. I don't want you to do this if it makes you feel uncomfortable. But it's just because it goes really fast. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's just such an aggressive offer that when people see the price and the value of the windows that I'm offering compared to what they've seen before, they jump on it really fast. And so it goes really, really quick. And, it's just the way the program works. And even if you're my last appointment, it's like, say it's like my 8 p.m. They're like, do you have somebody else out of this? I'm like, no, but I do first thing in the morning. And it's just the way the program works. I can't do anything. Or if maybe it's the last day, like we're there on a Saturday. It's the last day. I'm like, the program cuts today. I'm leaving town tomorrow. I won't even be out here to help you. I need to be physically here to help you. It's just the way the program works, guys. It goes really quick. We set up these homes. We got to get them installed as fast as we possibly can so we can actually sell full retail on the back end. There's nothing I can do about it. I would love to help you. So the best I'm going to do is just try to make this affordable as possible for you guys. It's kind of how I go about it.
It goes back to some of the other stuff that we've talked about with the urgency, the conviction, the belief in our process and how that comes across. So it's setting expectations and you're building some urgency, but it is also just getting to a point where, you're trying to disarm them and bring their walls down and be like, this is the way it goes. I understand it doesn't make sense for everybody. It is all about timing. I'm going to do my best to make this make sense for you. And it's almost like the who gives a shit type of mentality that is so important. And when you're in a slump or when you're new, you don't even realize what you're doing, but that is like the key. It's like you actually have to condition your mind. If you've been in a slump and you ran 27 appointments, I had to like retrain the way that I thought about it because I was so desperate. I had borrowed money from everybody. I had used all my credit cards. I was so desperate. But I just had to get this who gives a shit mentality and just start tapping into some of those things. That this is first come, first serve. We only need 2 homes in this neighborhood and then we're out of here. It's all about the timing. And what do you know? It worked. And I finally just found that formula. And it's been, what's made us so successful and to generate millions and millions of dollars and help all you guys make a bunch of money. It's this mentality that we've all had built in to our psyche when we go into these appointments that you have to be successful here. And we've all got a little taste of the other side of it too. When we do get in a little bit of desperation mode and we lose our touch there and we're trying to figure out what's going on, that's what it is. They're picking up on it. They're picking up that you no longer have that I don't give a shit mentality anymore. And you need this.
Yeah, I like to tell you, it was like, you know, I'm a marketing. My whole job is to make you smile. You know, have you give us great reviews. That's my job. My job is not to sell you on this. Like, you still have to buy it. Sorry, guys, because it's really freaking expensive. But, you know, my job is to try to help you. And with the discount, that's where it really helps out a ton of people. So hopefully this can work out for you. I'll do everything in my power. And I tell them, like, I want to save you money. I don't want to upsell you on anything, even if I will upsell them on something because, you know, for whatever reason, I'll tell them my job is not to upsell you. I want to save you. If I can combine windows, I'll go around offering my insight as to what's a great option, but it's your guys' home. Do what you feel is best. Do what you feel is going to make you the happiest. Otherwise, you will be asking me to change it later on to what you actually wanted. And they're like, okay, great. So they feel like I'm on their side. I'm there to help them, which is what I am there, you know. I'm there to offer the program this discount at this window that they can't find anywhere else for this price.
But even if you have those intentions, if you don't communicate it, they don't know. So you have to get that point across. Like, I am a helpsmith. I am here to help you. I'm going to do everything in my power to make this make sense and educate you and give you all the information that you need to make a great decision. And that's one of the most important parts, that they feel in control of making that decision.
I do it a little bit different. I don't blame the company. I blame their neighbors. I was telling them, like, look, man, there's no pressure for me, but you know, all your neighbors here, they have the same issues you do, because most of the time it's going to be around the same time of home that it's built. And we go on a first come, first serve. I mean, like, it's okay. Again, if it's a no, that's okay. Right. But I am going to go over and, you know, like your neighbor over there in the corner, fucking, you know, Joanne and John, they're going to get this deal. It's a fabulous deal. And it creates that FOMO, especially if it's somebody they know. I found that it even makes it a lot better. It makes it sting, you know, like, oh shit, no, I won it before those guys. You know what I mean? They already have this, they have that. Oh yeah, they have money and this and that. And it works a lot better. And like I always say, I'm like, instead of no, I always ask them, like, you got to tell me if it's a no, that's okay. And you can just see their fucking walls drop, like, this guy's not pushing me. There's a great opportunity, a little bit of silence. And then they just come around and like, you know what, let's do it.
Let's do one more before we get out of here. So, okay, so this one's really, really important. So it's reassuring them, explaining the next steps, and providing them contact info before we get out of there. And we all know why this is important, because this is how we avoid cancellations. We can get so good at this whole process and getting them to make that yes decision. But if we don't paint that clear picture how the rest of the process is going to go, and assure them that we're their company, I'm your window guy. If we don't do that, that's critical step of the process, then what happens? Maybe you get that phone call or that text the next morning. Hey, you know what? We thought about it and we just don't think it's the right time. Well, guess what? You probably didn't set the right expectations and reassure them that everything's going to go great. Everything's going to go smoothly. I'm here for you. So how do you guys kind of go about solidifying not only the expectations, but that you're going to be their window guy and that they made the right decision?
Literally break down every single portion of what's about to happen. Like, I tell them, like, I'm sorry, guys, I know I've talked a lot already, but I just want to let you know what happens for everyone else. And then I tell them remind them about coming to get exact measurements for him. And he's going to go inside and outside, and he's going to make sure the windows fit correctly. And I tell him he's also going to look at what the job requires to get done to make sure it gets done correctly. He's going to be one of your install guys. And I'm like, okay. And then I'll tell him, you know, about the warranty. You know, I'll tell them, hey, you're going to get paperwork. The windows have the serial numbers on them. The warranty work has the serial numbers on it. And I tell them to keep it in the folder. And this is kind of where it solidifies that I will be their guy. So I'm like, put it in the folder where my card is. That way, if you do have any issues, you call me. I was like, I will be the one to call the people and make sure that you're taken care of as quickly as possible. I'm your point guy from here on out. And then I'll tell them the best ways to get a hold of me. I'm like you guys see, I'm here at 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes I work till 11 o'clock at night. Just send me a text or make sure you leave me a voicemail so I know what you need. And I'll tell them how quickly I'll get back to them and how that looks. I mean, what the process will be from here on out. I'm like, all right, so I'll send a guy. He's usually about a day or two, you know, to get out there and look at and see what's going on. And even when the warranty, I tell them about the first 18 months, right? We file all the paperwork. And after the 18 months, I tell them about how they have to set up an online portal. But I tell them still right then, like, this even more reassures it that I'm there for them. It's like, before you just go ahead and file that paperwork, call me. I was like, that way I can have my guy out there about the same day you filed the paperwork so we can get this process going a whole lot faster. Because I tell them, like, if you file it on the thing, I don't know when they're going to get to us and tell us that you filed it. So I would rather we take care of you as quickly as humanly possible, especially if you got some kind of issue where the window's not working. I want to take care of that and make sure you don't have an issue.
And how long approximately does that take you, Obediah, to go through all that? Is it like another 15 minutes or something?
No, maybe 5, unless they have a bunch of questions. And usually by the time I get through the end of that 5 minutes and I ask them, like, all right, guys, I promise I'm out of here now. Do you guys have any more questions that I could possibly answer for you? And they every single time they're like, no, you were really thorough. That was great. I don't have a single question. And I tell them, well, look, my card's in there. Remember, my number's at the top. You have a question, text me 24/7. If it's about Windows, if it's therapy, I'm not very good. Ask my wife.
Now, wait a second. Have you always been that good, Obi? Were you always setting expectations like that?
No. It took a couple cancellations and them not understanding the process, them not feeling as secure in the way things would go for me to be like, I'm going to explain exactly how this goes so they know how.
Absolutely. That's painful.
Yeah.
It's almost like slap in the face. Like, I felt like I did a pretty good job. And then to hear that they didn't feel like that they knew what was going on. And I got these cancellations that keep stacking up. And what is the common denominator here? It's not the customer, it's you. That's how each one of you, every time I ask you guys this question, you all use some of the word tracks that I've either taught Jared or you guys have overheard from me, because the same thing happened to me, dude. It was the worst feeling ever to get cancellations. And before I was really good, every time that I would get a call from a customer, because I would plug most of the customer's information into my phone, I'd get a call from a customer. I'm like, oh God, like a fucking fear just sets over me. But after I started doing some of those things, I knew that I'd done everything in my power, set expectations, painted the clearest picture possible. And you can just have confidence that the rest of this thing is now up to your fulfillment department to take care of it. And you can really apply this to anything in life. Because if you set clear expectations and give clear instruction, then you're not going to get let down. Like, I've got a 17-year-old son, for example. And if I just give him some vague instructions and say, go get this done, I know that he's not going to do it right. And then I went through this so many times when he was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old that I no longer wanted to have those conversations where I'm all pissed off and upset that he didn't do what I was expecting him to do when I didn't tell him what to do. So everything in life gets kind of tied back to communication, setting proper expectations, giving people clear instruction, exactly what this is going to look like moving forward. And when I get home today, my boy has been out there pressure washing the driveway. I told him exactly what to do with intricate detail. And I did it twice. I did it once last night and once this morning. So when I get home, I know that he's going to have moved the cars out of the driveway and cleaned those cracks out and got it all out in the street and did it exactly how I showed him to do. Made sure all of it was cleaned off of the house. And you can apply that same thing in business. You set those expectations. They may not remember everything, but they've just got this level of comfort with you now. You spent 5 extra minutes with them, extra intentional about making sure that they knew with as much detail as possible how the rest of this entire process was going to go, with the most detail that you're even aware of how this process goes. And your cancellations will go to such a low percentage that they're almost non-existent. And everybody on this call over the last year has dang near a non-existent cancellation rate because of those extra things that you're doing with your customers and being extra intentional.
Oh yeah. Something I want to add real quick, because I think that's a massive part. You got to paint that picture. But some I've noticed, especially because I did get quite a bit of cancellations when I became a director. If I sense they're kind of wishy-washy, they're backpedaling, they're worried about the price, I address it right in there. Like, I'm not worried about them say no or canceling. I'm just, if they think it's too expensive, if they think they can't afford it. I mean, I've told people all the time, I'm like, this is not the cheapest window you're going to get out there. But for what you're getting, that's going to be the best value. So I know they're not going to call me the next day saying, hey, I looked online, and then, this Windows I get for $700 a piece. Again, like that's all by experience because I've seen it before. Like I've had those conversations. People are calling like, hey, I found this, I found that. So I always just address it, ask him the appointment. I've never had anybody be like, oh yeah, you know what, never mind. Or like I had a guy just barely in page and he was having a hard time getting signed. That was the biggest transaction he's ever made, $20,000 on Windows. And I'm like, look, man, if you're going to sign this and call me tomorrow to cancel, don't sign it. And I was just sitting there, just a big old smile. I'm like, it's all right. Like, don't sign it. I just want to make sure you guys come. This should be a fun transaction. You're going to be one of our advertising groups. And then he looked at it. He signed it. He's like, I can assure you I'm not going to cancel this. I'm like, perfect. I can't remember the last time I got a cancellation. And I really think it's because I just stress it. If I feel any type of resistance or somebody that might cancel, I address it on the spot. I'm not going to wait for them to think about it and then make a decision. We're addressing it as I'm there so I can help them, guide them through it. And then they're not going to call me later and be like, you know what, never mind. I thought about it. I did this research. I'm giving them all the information. So I'm not hiding anything. Like I'm not scared of them losing the deal. Like I'm assuring them this is going to be the best deal they get. And this is going to be the best company to do it with. When we go in there and you address it, that cancellation rate is going to be very, very low. I can assure you guys that.
Have them go through our Google reviews again.
Mm-hmm.
Most I'm through them and maybe they touched a couple. I tell them at the end of it, like, hey, now you guys are signed up. I want you to go through every single review that we have on there. I tell them again, just look at it, check it out. You guys are going to be really excited to see what we have going on, what we've offered. There's pictures on there. You're just going to get a feel for how this process is going to go for you. And you're going to be really excited. I'm really happy for you. Just to kind of help solidify it. And once they do get into those reviews after the appointment, I feel like that helps just like calm any nerves that they would have about the price,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Lots of happy customers, great customer experiences, and some really cool stories on there too. It's interesting how much detail people will put into their Google reviews when they have a good experience. And they'll also do that when they have a bad experience. Probably more often than if they have good experiences. So it says a lot about how many we have between both of our offices in the, I think we're up over 800 now. I'm pretty proud of those. Lots of happy customers. And it all starts with you guys creating a good experience with those guys, all the way down to collecting the last bit of money from them and explaining, all the installers do the same thing. We've trained them. They have such high standards working for us, different than any company they've ever worked for, to give them a complete walkthrough and show them the windows and set the expectations moving forward about any service work that they need, that, 800 5-star reviews to show for it. And most of them are talking about the installers. They don't ever talk about us.
I think I got my name on one review ever out of 300
I got
homes.
it on one time. Brooks sent it to me. He's like, hey, this is your name. I'm like, oh, yay. I was going to say, dude, all the new directors that'll be watching this, I've had customers get on there and tell me, like, or, in the appointment, tell me when they're going through reviews, one of their favorite things is that Jeff personally responds to people on these things. If there was an issue, Jeff was on there responding to them, telling them, how he was going to fix it. And then they were able to see through the responses that it was remedied. So just for some more people to build some confidence in what we do, that Jeff will actually get on there and take care of it himself.
Yep. Well, there's I take a lot of pride in our customer experience, and some of them are answered by other people in the company, but most of those are answered by me. And it's important. I had one of our guys call yesterday, and he's a guy that never calls me, but I thought he was calling about a customer complaint or something. So I'm like, what is it? Where are you at? How can I help? He was calling about something else, but that's what I love, man. I love helping people. I love making sure that our standards stay high and that our people can believe in our process. And what better way to do that than just let your actions speak for it. All right, y'all. Great session. Another great episode of Just Real Quick. Thank you all for your contribution today. That was amazing. Go out there and kill it. Until next time.
Absolutely.